My name is Nicole, and I'm a 34-year-old hairdresser. I currently work as the chief stylist at a hair salon that is managed by my husband, Michael. He is 3 years older than me, and we met several years ago through a mutual acquaintance. From the beginning, I was drawn to his warm, kind-hearted, and friendly personality. It didn't take long for us to fall in love, and 4 years ago, we decided to tie the knot and begin our life together as husband and wife. While Michael and I had a strong foundation, there was one major challenge looming over our relationship from the start. His mother, Victoria, Michael's mother, Victoria, had divorced his father when Michael was still in junior high school. Since then, she had single-handedly raised him, a fact she proudly reminded everyone of. While I genuinely admired her strength and determination, there was another side to it. Victoria seemed to believe that her role as a single mother granted her ultimate authority over every aspect of her son's life, even now that he was an adult and married. From the very beginning of our engagement, she insisted on having her say in everything. She dictated how our wedding ceremony should be planned, chose the destination for our honeymoon, selected our new home, and even micromanaged the interior design. I had my own dreams for our wedding and future together, visions that I had cherished for years. But whenever I expressed even the slightest opinion, Victoria would immediately shoot it down. And if Michael tried to step in and mediate, she would say things like, "Do you intend to defy me? I'm going to be your mother-in-law. You know the saying about casting pearls before swine, right? You don't need such a lavish wedding dress. Honestly, I wonder what kind of upbringing your parents gave you." Her dismissiveness hurt deeply, not just because she ignored my wishes, but because she insulted my family in the process. I began to worry seriously about what kind of life I was walking into. My parents, concerned about my well-being, gently suggested that I take a step back and reconsider the marriage. But then Michael, with genuine sincerity in his eyes, apologized. "I'm truly sorry for my mother's behavior. It was incredibly rude of her. But I love you, Nicole. I want to build a life and a family with you. I'll work hard to make us happy. Please give me the chance. Will you trust me and watch over our marriage?" Moved by his words, both my parents and I felt reassured. I believed this was a man who would stand by me, no matter what conflict arose with his mother. And so, despite our concerns, we went ahead with the wedding, and in the end, the wedding and even our new home were executed entirely according to my mother-in-law's preferences. My own mother, trying to help me make peace with the situation, offered me advice. Sometimes taking a loss now can lead to a bigger gain later. If you give your mother-in-law the respect she demands, she might end up feeling indebted to you. Encouraged by her wisdom, I chose to go along with everything, despite my reservations. Now, for years later, I regret that decision more deeply than the ocean is vast and higher than the tallest mountain. One evening, I approached Michael, hoping to discuss work. "Michael, can we talk about the business for a moment?" Without looking up from his phone, he replied, "I'm busy tonight. There's a junior chamber meeting." I sighed. "Yesterday, it was a shopping district gathering. Today, it's a meeting. Last week, you had dinners and parties every night. When can we actually sit down and talk?" He shot me a look. "All those events are part of my business. You complaining now? You're not exactly the ideal wife for an entrepreneur if you're going to whine about it." "I'm not complaining," I said quietly. "But we now have 3 stores. Isn't it natural for me to want to talk about our business, our future?"
He scoffed.
"You know I leave everything about the stores to you. Your only redeeming quality, Nicole, is your hairdressing skill. You don't have a fancy education or a notable family background, so it's natural for you to focus on boosting sales. Why are you even relying on me?" That night, I just stared at him, speechless. 4 years ago, we started our salon business from nothing. Now, we had successfully opened 3 branches and were considering a 4th by the end of the fiscal year. It was a remarkable achievement, but instead of drawing us closer, success seemed to inflate Michael's ego. He began to treat me with growing disdain. He mocked my appearance, criticized my fashion choices, and even compared me unfavorably to rival stylists. When I didn't respond quickly to his text messages or delayed a task he asked me to do, he would give me the cold shoulder. The silent treatment would follow. He'd come home late, leaving the meals I'd lovingly prepared untouched. Sometimes he would make a show of ordering takeout right in front of me or bring back food from the convenience store. He even began spending more time at his mother's apartment, which happened to be on another floor of the same building. He'd eat there, take long baths, and sleep over sometimes. At first, I was terrified of making things worse. So, even when he was ignoring me, I would keep preparing his meals and drawing his baths, even though I knew they would be wasted. I stayed up late, hoping he would respond to my messages, never knowing when or if he would return home. As if things weren't bad enough, Victoria kept up her barrage of criticisms. "I knew you were a terrible wife, but I didn't think you'd be this hopeless," she sneered. One day, I gathered the courage to ask, "Do you know why Michael is ignoring me? Did I do something wrong?" She laughed coldly. "You don't even know your own faults. Why should I explain anything to someone so clueless?" Her cruel words, coupled with her refusal to help, left me in a constant state of anxiety. Just when I felt like I couldn't take any more of the emotional roller coaster, Michael would suddenly walk through the door as if nothing had happened. "I'm home. I'm starving. What's for dinner?" He'd act completely normal, as if the previous days of silence and neglect had never occurred. And despite myself, I would feel a wave of relief wash over me. But soon, that relief turned into fear. I didn't want to go through the silent treatment again. So I started to live my life in a way that revolved entirely around pleasing Michael, reading his moods, and avoiding his displeasure. I might never have realized how much I had changed if it weren't for Rebecca, a bright, sharp new stylist who had joined our salon earlier that spring. One day, during one of Michael's now frequent cold spells, she approached me gently and said something that pierced straight through my emotional armor. And that was the moment I began to truly see the life I had been living. Michael continued his silent treatment, refusing to speak to me, ignoring the meals I prepared, and leaving home early or coming back late without explanation. I didn't want to waste the food I had made the night before, so I quietly packed the leftover side dishes into a lunchbox and brought it with me to the salon. Sitting alone during the lunch break, I opened the box and started to eat in silence. That's when Rebecca, our new stylist, approached me. "Hey, Nicole," she said gently. "Is that lunchbox homemade by you?" I smiled faintly. "Yeah. It's just leftovers from last night. Nothing special." Rebecca paused, then said with a mix of caution and concern, "I know I'm still new here, and I probably shouldn't be saying this, but have you ever thought that President Michael might be trying to control you?" I blinked in surprise. "Control me? What do you mean?" "I'm sorry if I'm overstepping," she replied, "but isn't he completely ignoring you right now?" Yeah, he is." "I thought so," she said, lowering her voice. "I've seen how he treats you in the staff room, smiling and chatting with others while acting like you're invisible. He thinks no one notices, but I saw him brush your hand away coldly when you tried to reach out." She gestured to my lunch. "And then there's this grilled mackerel, meat and potatoes. That's clearly what was for dinner last night, right? It's so different from your usual colorful and thoughtfully made lunches. You've always made the kind of meals that show love and care." I froze. She was right. Rebecca sat down beside me and sighed. "My mom went through something similar," she said. "Before she divorced my biological father, she was always trying to please him. He ignored her too, just like your husband. It started small, just little dismissive moments here and there, but eventually he stopped talking to her altogether. My mom would cry often, and no matter how hard she tried, it was never enough. Eventually, she started second-guessing herself in everything, what to cook, how to dress, even how to speak." Her smile turned submissive. She looked at me with a quiet intensity. "I think that's what's happening to you." I swallowed hard. "I see." Rebecca continued, "My mom told me something that stuck with me. Some people use silence not just as a punishment, but as a tool to dominate. They ignore you, knowing it will make you worry and question yourself. It keeps them in control. And people like that, they actually enjoy watching their partner fall apart. It gives them power." Her words hit me like a wave. She finished, "If someone truly loved you, your hurt would hurt them too. But people like President Michael? They feel satisfied when they see you broken. It's twisted. Rebecca's blunt honesty stirred something in me. It was as if a fog had started to lift. From that moment, when Michael ignored me, or when Victoria hurled her usual jabs, I stopped panicking the way I used to. I began observing rather than reacting. And through that new lens, I began to see things for what they truly were. Michael wasn't just moody. He was emotionally immature and cruelly selfish. My mother-in-law wasn't just difficult. She was willfully malicious and enabling her son's toxic behavior. Neither of them made the slightest effort to reflect or change. But rather than feel broken by it, I began to feel something else: detachment. However, it seemed my growing indifference didn't sit well with them. Michael's coldness only grew. Victoria's biting comments became routine. They both started to treat silence like a weapon, wielding it at every turn. Michael hardly came home anymore unless he felt like it. When he did, he would head straight to his room and lock the door behind him. He stopped showing up at the store or our company altogether. I found myself managing everything on my own, carrying the weight of a business we had built together, now without any support from the man I once called my partner. One day, when the salon was closed for a scheduled day off, I decided to do some deep cleaning around the apartment. Normally, I relied on our Roomba and Brava robots for daily maintenance, but the weather was bright and clear, and I felt a rare urge to do a thorough job. I played my favorite playlist on my phone and hummed softly while wiping down the windows. The sunlight streamed in, momentarily giving me a sense of peace I hadn't felt in months. Then, without warning, the front door clicked open. Michael and his mother walked in unannounced and, without saying a word to me, flopped down on the living room sofa. Their presence immediately darkened the space. Still, out of courtesy, I headed to the kitchen and quickly brewed some tea, placing it gently on the table in front of them. Their voices, low and cutting, carried across the room. "Such an inconsiderate wife," Victoria muttered. "But maybe we can say goodbye to this kind of woman soon. It's going to be refreshing." My hand froze on the teacup. I turned to look at them, confused. Michael spoke next, his voice void of emotion. "You see, Nicole, I have a child now. It's time for you to step aside. We'll give you about 2 weeks. You need to move out of this apartment by then." Victoria added smoothly, "Of course, you'll be quitting your job at the salon as well. No severance pay." My head spun. I could hardly breathe. Michael has a child? He's been cheating on me? I'm being kicked out of my home? And losing my job? With no compensation? Even though our marriage had long felt like a cold war, I was still unprepared for the sudden ambush. My mind reeled, trying to process the cruel finality of their words. And then Victoria added, almost smugly, "His next wife is nothing like you. She's from a wealthy family, you know," Victoria said, eyes gleaming with cruel satisfaction. "Graduated from a top women's college. And after that, she trained in the beauty capital, Paris. There's just no way someone like you could ever compete. So, why don't you just give up already?" She laughed mockingly. "Wife, quickly. That's why we need you to leave." "That's right," Victoria added. "We're all looking forward to it. There's no doubt she'll give birth to a wonderful child." They said whatever they pleased, with no regard for my feelings. My ears were ringing, my pulse rising. I tried to stay composed. 3 months pregnant. That means the baby is the result of an affair, doesn't it? "Yeah," Michael admitted casually. "So, what's your point?" I stared at him in disbelief. "So, you want me to leave just because you suddenly decided you want to marry your fated partner?" He smiled faintly, as if he was indulging a child.
"Exactly.
"Emily and I just met in the wrong order. That's all. But we're truly connected by the red thread of fate." Victoria scoffed. "That's what we've been saying all along. You're just slow to catch on." Their cheerful cruelty made my head ache. I pressed a hand to my temple, trying to stay upright as nausea crept in. "I need time to think," I said quietly. "Please leave." "Humph," Victoria muttered, rising to her feet. "Well, I suppose it's natural. With that scattered mind of yours, It's going to take a while to grasp reality. They finally retreated to Victoria's room, leaving me alone with their words ringing in my ears. The apartment was suddenly silent. The music had long stopped playing. I sank to the floor, numb. My hands hung limply at my sides. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at nothing. Then I noticed my phone screen glowing in the dim room, an incoming call from Rebecca. I managed to answer with a dull, "Hello? Nicole, where are you right now?" Rebecca's voice was filled with concern. "At home. Stay there. I'm coming over." She hung up before I could protest. About 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Rebecca stood outside, her arms filled with bulging eco bags. "Sorry for barging in," she said cheerfully, stepping inside. "I brought some food and drinks. Thought you could use them." She washed her hands, then efficiently laid out a spread of deli items on the table. She poured craft beer, her current favorite, into glasses, handed me one, and said brightly, "Let's eat before it gets cold." She placed a spoon in my hand. I took a bite. The soft, fluffy omelet rice melted in my mouth, comforting and warm. I hadn't realized how hungry I was. The only thing I'd had all day was coffee and a piece of bread. "This place has the best omelet rice," she said, smiling. "I brought a bunch of different things. Eat and enjoy, okay?" We ate mostly in silence, but I felt something stir in me. The warmth of food, the quiet presence of a friend, it chipped away at my numbness. After a while, Rebecca spoke again. "Our boss sent a store-wide email. It said you're leaving at the end of this month. Is it true?" I nodded. "Yeah. Michael and Victoria demanded I divorce him, and I quit the store." She was quiet for a moment, absorbing the weight of my words. Then she looked straight into my eyes. "What do you want to do, Nicole?" "What I want to do. Not what they say you have to do," she said firmly. "It's your life. You decide how you want to steer it. Steer it in the direction you want to go." Her words landed in my chest like a bright flare cutting through a dark sky. For the first time in a long while, my heart felt clear. "I want a divorce," I said, my voice steady. "There's not a single reason to stay with Michael or his family. I want to start over. Right away." Michael had given me a grace period of 10 days to move out. I didn't wait. Once I made the decision, everything started falling into place. I didn't have many personal belongings. I contacted a moving company and packed up my things in boxes. Rebecca, ever dependable, offered to handle my belongings at the store so I wouldn't have to see Michael again. Meanwhile, a friend introduced me to a lawyer. I asked him to draft a document demanding alimony and division of property from Michael. At the same time, I toured several apartments and signed a lease on one I liked. As soon as the move was completed, my lawyer sent the legal documents to Victoria's address. That's when the flood of line messages and emails began. Both Michael and Victoria bombarded me with demands and complaints. I ignored them. Instead, I proposed a formal meeting at my lawyer's office. On the day of the meeting, I sat quietly in the lawyer's office. Then the door opened. Michael walked in, smirking, followed by Victoria, and a young woman with delicate features and a designer handbag clutched in her hand. "Emily." The lawyer glanced at her and asked politely, "And you are?" Before she could respond, Victoria spoke for her. "This is Emily, Michael's soon-to-be wife. As soon as you submit your divorce papers, they'll register their marriage." Their smile said it all. They thought they had won. I didn't care. I asked calmly, "Do you agree to the terms laid out in the documents?" Michael nodded. "Yeah, sure. Think of it as severance pay. We'll give you whatever you want." Victoria added smugly, "Michael's being generous, you know. You're going to be all alone now. Money's all you've got." They handed over the full alimony amount I had specified, packed in a bank-sealed envelope. I signed and stamped my portion of the divorce papers, passed them across the table, and felt the weight of a toxic marriage lift from my shoulders. Standing up, I looked them both in the eye. "I don't think we'll ever meet again," I said quietly. "But just in case, let me be clear. No matter what happens in the future, I will never help either of you. Ever." Victoria scoffed. "Is that your final desperate remark?" "No," I said. It's a promise. Okay, I get that you're upset, Emily said as she stood by the door, trying to maintain her composure. But you don't have to be so sarcastic. With that, she turned and walked out, laughing alongside Michael and Victoria as if none of it mattered. That was the last I saw of them, at least in person. Now, I'm working as the top stylist at a popular hair salon in the heart of the city. The same Rebecca who helped me rediscover my strength that night is now my trusted assistant. After that final meeting at the lawyer's office, I didn't waste a moment. I threw myself into finding a new job, one where I could finally grow freely. My past awards from hair competitions, along with the features I'd received on professional beauty websites, quickly opened doors. I landed a new position without needing to rely on any of the money from the divorce. I live comfortably, without even touching the consolation money or the assets I was granted. That chapter is closed. Even more unexpectedly, I've started dating again, a man I met during a joint training session with a sister branch of the salon. He's kind, steady, and doesn't try to control me. I feel free and relaxed every day, and that feeling is priceless. Nice, Rebecca teased one day, flashing a grin. So, when's your next date? Don't tease your senior like that, I said, nudging her playfully. Rebecca stayed at Michael's salon for a while after I left, but that wasn't her idea. I had asked her to remain temporarily. There were 2 reasons. First, I didn't want people to think she lacked commitment, especially so early in her career. Second, I feared that if Michael and Victoria found out she was still my friend, they might target her out of spite. Reluctantly, Rebecca agreed. But what she witnessed during that time could have been pulled straight from a soap opera. Shortly after my divorce, Emily strutted into the salon like royalty, brimming with confidence as the new top stylist and field manager from Paris. She made a grand entrance, hand in hand with Michael. But pride, as they say, comes before fall. One of the male staff members, Thomas, who had worked under me as a sub-stylist, happened to be an old classmate of Emily's. She hadn't known that. I thought someone incredible was coming back from Paris, Thomas said, squinting at her. But it's just you, Emily? Thomas. Why are you here? She blurted, stunned. I should be the one asking that, he replied dryly. You were always getting scolded by our instructors. Couldn't pass any of the written tests. How'd someone like you end up in Paris? Emily stammered. That's not true. I studied hard. I studied at university. University? Thomas raised a brow. The same Emily who said she didn't even understand basic English during our French conversation classes? You need a French hairdresser's license to work in Paris, right? When did you suddenly become fluent in French? The room fell silent. Emily tried to laugh it off, but the damage was done. Her lies unraveled faster than she could spin new ones. Soon after, an explosive argument broke out between Emily, Michael, and Victoria, who had stormed into the salon in a rage. The shouting escalated to such a degree that someone called the police. What followed was chaos. Staff began resigning one by one. The salon lost its soul. Customers stopped coming. The once thriving business began to crumble. They were forced to close 2 of their locations and tried to relaunch at their original branch. But it was already too late. Last month, the final salon shut down for good. That must have been tough, I said to Rebecca after she told me the story. It was, she admitted. But there was a silver lining. Because of the collapse, I was officially treated as a staff member who left due to company circumstances. So no one asked awkward questions during my interview here. I'm really glad we're working together again, I smiled. But why did you choose this salon? Rebecca looked at me and said with a warm grin, to learn from you, Nicole. Up close. I laughed. All right, I'll train you properly then. No slacking. Sometime after Rebecca joined my new salon, a letter arrived through the lawyer I had hired for my divorce. It was from Michael and Victoria. They had no other way to contact me. I had blocked their numbers, changed my email, and my parents firmly refused any attempts by them to reach me. The letter was filled with desperation. They claimed they had been deceived by Emily. She wasn't pregnant, her entire background was fabricated, and she had vanished, taking all of their valuables with her. They'd even lost the salon and the apartment, which had been used as collateral. Nicole is the only hope for me and my mother. I believe that someone as kind as you will extend a helping hand in our time of need. We want to hear from you as soon as possible. After skimming through the letter, I called my lawyer. Please don't pass along any more messages from them, I said firmly. Just tell them, I don't care. Rebecca had told me something once that I never forgot. It's your life, Nicole. You decide how to steer it. And that's exactly what I've done. I've taken the wheel of my own life. No more steering it to please others. No more letting a man or anyone dictate my destiny. Now, I wake up each day with a sense of peace, purpose, and possibility. I'm surrounded by people who respect me. I do the work I love, and I walk forward without fear. Michael, Victoria, Emily, their drama is in the rearview mirror, and I'm never looking back. Please feel free to comment below if you like this. Remember to like and subscribe for more.